Hello, 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 guys. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're viewing from. Thank you for joining me. So, this is my summary, my debrief, basically, where I come and try to be accountable to you, try to share with you the snippets and the nuggets from our speakers. Now, as I say, and this is my disclaimer, I may not always do them justice because I'm multitasking. I'm speaking to them, obviously, I'm interviewing them, I'm typing, and I'm trying to get down the points and everything. But I do try to give you a sense, a taste of what was discussed. So, my second speaker for this evening on day 4 of the Leap and Shine online teleconference was Brandy Miller. And as I said to you, Brandy is someone that I've worked with and I absolutely respect and I absolutely love her spirit. And Brandy was with us this evening from 9:30 speaking on the subject confidence and how to get the confidence that you need to make good your escape. So very quickly, guys, Brandy is the chief executive storyteller for the 40-day writer, and that's something she calls the home of aspiring authors. She's also a creativity consultant for her company, which is called Creative Technology Services. That's where creative entrepreneurs are given the tools, the training, the support, and the systems to make their voices heard in the marketplace. And she's also the voice of the everyday Catholic, when she speaks about, her Catholic faith from her perspective. So she's really an interesting person. And what she had to share with us about her life, already I'm getting reviews that it's impacted some people, because Brandy has been to some really dark places, but she's not letting that stop her. She believes that the only difference between a negative and a positive is the line we draw through them, the line we draw between them, and that every negative is actually a positive as far as she's concerned, and every failure is a win as far as she's concerned. Now, Brandy will not, this isn't original to her, that thought or that statement. She won't be the first person to have ever said that. If you randomly Google, you'll see several people who have said that, from all the fathers of philosophy, and people through the ages have said that when you fail forward, because every failure has success hidden in it, every pain has purpose hidden in it, and every negative has the positive hidden in it. So that's basically the lesson that I got from there, because everyone will hear the same thing, the same words, and will get what they want to get from it. So that's my message for me. That's what I'm owning to be my learning point from Brandy's session, which is that the difference between the negative and the positive is the line you draw through it, is how you see it, is how you perceive it, and it's also that age-long discussion about, is the glass half empty or half full. Someone will look at the same glass like that, and say it's half full, and another person will look at it and say it's half empty. Or, this isn't a glass, this is my Lip and Shine mug, but you get the picture. So Brandy shared her story. She opens, as she opens all the time, she opened by saying that she's a mess, not just a mess, she's a hot mess. She's dealt with several issues in her life: poverty, struggling with poverty, struggling with hardship, and having suffered abuse, being abandoned by her father, being let down by her mother, and being abused as a child by her stepfather. But she says, strangely, none of that is negative, because they've all been learning tools for her. And she said that suffering and struggle are simply muscle training for the soul. Suffering and struggle are muscle training for the soul. She says she feels sorry for people who have never had to deal with adversity or trials, because we'll talk. I'll share about that actually when we come to, we'll talk about the merchandise aspect of the whole Lip and Shine thing. Thanks for asking that, though. That's a very, very good question, Abdul. Thank you so much. So you're such a sport. Thank you so much. God bless you. So, guys, that's what Brandy had to say. I had to share that even though she was abused by her stepfather, abandoned by her father, her mother let her down. She's dealt with, she's struggled with poverty all her life, poverty, hardship, and all of that. That all of these things are positives because suffering and struggle are muscle training for the soul. Abdul, can you hashtag that or type it in? That suffering and struggle are muscle training for the soul. And we got quite a few one-liners, didn't we, from Brandy? The difference between the negative and the positive is the line you draw through it, and all of that. We got quite a few good one-liners. Now, Brandy shares how she met her husband at 13. They became friendly. They started dating, and by 19, they were pregnant and homeless. Or she was pregnant and they were homeless in the Texas heat, and they didn't have anybody to help them. So the family that could have taken them in refused to take them in, or they wouldn't take them in, and the family that wanted to help or wanted to take them in could not do so because they just couldn't. They were not able to help. So she just knew that things weren't right, and she had to stop and find herself. And I asked Brandy, how has abuse shaped your life? How have the things that you've gone through shape your life? The hashtag is suffering and struggle are muscle training for the soul. Suffering and struggle. You can just type it in there and share it on the Facebook page. Thank you so much. Suffering and struggle are just muscle training for the soul. So basically she's saying embrace it, don't run away from it, because it makes you tougher. It makes your spirit and your soul stronger and tougher. So she says she feels sorry for those who have never had to deal with suffering or struggle or adversity because they don't know that they can handle it. And when you go through suffering and adversity, it teaches you to be stronger. That's what Brandy believes. So she says that the way that the abuse has shaped her, affected her, was that she had initially difficulty in finding love or accepting love, because the abuse started for her when she was only 4 years old. But then she got to know that there was a power that she had, even though obviously she was a child and this was an adult, abusing, perpetrating the abuse. She got to know that she could still stop that person from hurting her, and that is by using her voice. So she recommends, what would you tell a young child who is going through this? She recommends talk. That is what you can do. That they don't want you to talk. The person abusing you doesn't want you to talk. And one of the key things they will keep saying to you is, if you say a word, if you tell anyone, and then they'll paint a picture of all the things that will go horribly wrong, and how things will not be the same, and how you will suffer a worse fate or worse suffering if you ever opened your mouth to tell anyone. But she says, don't buy into that. They don't want you to talk. The reason they're saying that is because they're afraid of what will happen if you talk. But that ability for you to speak up and tell somebody is actually your power. She says, do not keep quiet. Make sure you talk. Make sure you tell someone. And to the mothers who are dealing with this kind of situation, she says, don't stick your head in the sand. Don't play ostrich. Listen to what your child tells you. If your child talks, if your child tells you something and says, this is going on, I'm being abused, or someone's doing something untoward or inappropriate to me, she says to mothers, don't stick your head in the sand. Listen and do something with what you hear. Act on it. You need to get out of that relationship. If the person is hurting either you or your child, especially if they're hurting your child, that's harmless, because you have a responsibility to protect that child. And quite often what we find in situations like Brandy's is that because the mother who is involved, the mother is like a triangle. The mother is obviously in a relationship with this person, with whether it's the father or a stepfather, but she is in a relationship, she's in an adult relationship with this person, and because of that, it might color the way she sees things. It might make her stay in denial and lie to herself. And even if she did try to address the situation, the adult that because she's in a relationship with that person, has the ability to still mess with her mind and make her doubt what the little child has told her. I mean, if people come to a child and an adult come to tell you something, you're most likely to give the adult the benefit of the doubt and say the child is confused, the child is making things up, and that often happens. But Brandy says for mothers, if your child comes and tells you about abuse, don't stick your head in the sand, listen and do something with what you hear, and make sure you act on it to protect not just yourself but your child. So Brandy recognized at some point during the abuse that she went through that she had a power over this person that was abusing her, and that power was that she could speak, she could tell someone. And when that person came to her and cornered her in the den one of these days and said to her, you must not say anything. If you tell anyone, something terrible will happen, and we will, our family will be ruined, and I could go to prison. And she said she heard that and she sort of saw the fear in his eyes, and she knew then that tell is exactly what she must do. Talk is exactly what she must do. And she started to talk. And she said this time around her mom listened, and the rest is history. So guys, this is one of the key things that has impacted the life of this speaker. And she talks about several other things that she had to go through as a person of faith, how that God was telling her to go down a certain path and take a certain action with a talent or a gifting that he'd given her, and she was ignoring it. And that gift is the gift of writing, and he wanted her to take her writing seriously, and she was not doing it. And because of that, every single trapping of comfort, or the bridges she said she was building, the trapdoors, the protection, and I want to try and build this business or do this or do that because I want to lock out or block out financial difficulties. So in her own mind, she was doing various other activities that were not a part of God's agenda for her. Now she says in her own words that God basically, stopped her in her tracks. And when she went to him and said, what is happening? Why is my life the way it is? She said, God told her, because you're not listening, you're doing your own thing, and I want you to stop and do my own thing. And she said she knew then that was, and after that, shortly after that, when she decided to, she wasn't very over the moon with God's instruction, but she thought, okay, well, let's give it a go. And shortly after that, she got a client, a high-paying client, and she helped that client to write their life story. One thing you may not know about Brandy is she's a ghostwriter, and an excellent one. So she helped that client to tell their life story, to write their life story, and it was an amazing story. And as she was working with that woman telling her story, the story sort of changed her, and she knew in a sort of, if you like, in a eureka moment, she knew that this was absolutely what she was meant to be doing, helping people tell their stories. And that's what she's been doing ever since. Now, she says to those who are dealing with feelings of guilt, feelings of doubt, feelings of shame as a result of having suffered abuse, she says, know this one thing, that you are not responsible for what somebody did to you. You are not responsible for what somebody did to you, but you are responsible for what you do with it, for what you do with that experience, for what you do with that memory, for what you do with that incident that happened to you. So really, that's what you need to be taking care of. That's what, my battery is low. That's what you need to be worried about, but you're not responsible for what somebody did to you. So you need to pull positive out of negative, because as I've repeated before, she believes that every positive every negative has a positive in it. And she says from any experience, especially the experience of abuse, or even the experience of abuse, you can learn, you can grow, and you can touch other people's lives. And I add to that our stories are not for us. Our experiences, our calamities, our trials, our tribulations and temptations, they're not for us. They are absolutely for us to craft our message out of them, and then to go out and help somebody else who's dealing with that situation, because you are never ever alone in life. And some people think that they're alone, and their feeling of depression or trauma even intensifies because they don't know, they can't seem to understand the fact that someone else before them has gone through that experience. Well, if you have gone through that experience and you're not speaking out about it, you're not trying to touch this person, whether you're saying it through social media or by blogging or writing your book or telling your life story or whatever, if you're not speaking up, then that person is not going to be able to see a living, breathing human being that they can point to and say, well, Brandy shares my story, so and so shares my history, and look, she's standing tall, she's doing amazing things, she's strong, she's come out stronger from this experience, so therefore I can. If she can, I can. Then you have connected with purpose. You've touched somebody's life, and the world is a better place because of you. So always pull the positive out of the negative. You can learn, you can grow, and you can absolutely change somebody's life from. Hi Toyin, hi Shirin, hi Elizabeth. Welcome. Thank you for jumping on this call. So you can absolutely change somebody's life with what has happened to you. No matter what you are going through, there is always a solution, and there will always be an end. And she said that I shared about how she said she heard from God after struggling with poverty for a long time. And it was only when she listened that she started to see things clearly. And she says that, for things to grow, for the seed that's put in the ground to grow, all the mess that goes into it, the fertilizer, the manure is very smelly. It's not pleasant. We all know what manure smells like. We all know where it comes from. It's not pleasant, but guess what? The seed that you put in the earth only becomes fruitful when you put the messy manure into it. When you feed it with the messy manure, that's when that seed grows, and that's when that seed begins to bear fruit. So when those nasties come into our life, when life throws you curved balls, she recommends, embrace it. And another one of my speakers, Fatima Zakiri, who spoke to us about how adversity, learning to cope with adversity can help you to actually become successful. I think she spoke to us from Singapore. She also shares the same thing. And these are truths that we probably know, but when it comes to practicalizing them, sometimes we fall short. That's the unfortunate thing about life. But this is some of what Brandy had to share with us, and I know that I probably haven't done her justice. So because of that, I will just drop this here. I'll let you know that the full audio pack is available. You can get the full audio pack by going to leapandshineconference.com/shop. That's leapandshineconference.com/shop. And I recommend you get the full 7-day audio featuring all the 14 speakers from different parts of the world discussing various topics. Make it a gift, a Christmas gift, not just for yourself, but for somebody else. And I recommend through the month something that you heard before you listen to it again, and doing so ideate, implement, and incrementalize. So when you listen over and over again to things that these speakers have shared, you will get ideas for your life, ideas for how to move your life forward, to how to take you to your next level, whether that's in your personal life, in your business, or in your career. How do you move next level? How do you use the better for yourself? That's what this whole conference is about. That's what has caused me, or has, if you like, motivated me to go all out to get you these hand-picked, hand-selected speakers from all around the world. And this is an international gathering, as someone called it, an international gathering of speakers from all around the world. And they are also grateful for the opportunity to just come and pour into you, because there is fulfillment in giving. There's a sense of wellness, there's a sense of happiness and joy and fulfillment when people give, and they're all very happy. And as I say, the Leap and Shine conference in 2017 is going to be bigger and better. It is going to be a live event. It's going to be a whole day event, and I mean, it's such a shame that with all that these people have to give us, the content that they have, that we can only give each speaker just 1 hour. So we've tried to do the best that we can. We've tried to interview them. We've tried to get at their story, because stories are powerful, and our stories are not for us. Our stories are for somebody else. So Brandy sharing her story this evening was absolutely amazing, because I had at least 2 people on that call who came specifically to hear her story, because they're dealing with abuse. They're dealing with the shame and they're dealing with, you know, the self-recrimination, and they're dealing with the guilt of having suffered abuse. And unless they can see a real person that they can point to and say, so this person suffered the same thing that I suffered. This person, how did she survive it? How did she go through it? And how is she where she is today? And really, Brandy's life is touching many people's lives. So that's what it's all about, guys, sharing your story. And I would say to you, just as this just dropped into my mind, but or you would like to write a book, maybe to give your business or your product an extra additional edge. Guys, I lost you there for a very long while, but I was just saying about Brandy, my last speaker, that she is the chief executive, how does she call it? The chief executive storyteller of the 40-Day Writer, which is a home for aspiring authors. And she very kindly shone the spotlight on me today. Earlier today, there was a publication where, you know, she spotlights, you know, different authors from time to time, and the spotlight was on me today, and I'm going to share that link on my Facebook page. It's there already. I'll reshare it, so do feel free to go there and take a read. It's about how I had to display resilience and mental toughness to be able to write my book, not only to overcome the you know, the circumstances and the limitations that I faced, but I was able to, despite that, you know, finish writing my book in 64 days flat. And the issues that I had to go through, my learning curve, the points that I've learned in self-publishing a book, and those are things that I'm now helping people with. Those are things that I'm now teaching people with. You know, I also do ghostwriting, which is where I think the video broke, where I was saying, if you have a life story, you would like to tell the story of your life, or there is a book that's inside your belly that you'd like to bring out, but you just don't have the ability, the time, or the inclination to do the work yourself, then get in my diary or simply just inbox me and let's have a conversation about how I can help you. Because that is my shine factor. When I speak about the shine factor, about that thing that you love, that you're passionate about, that you would do even if nobody paid you for it, that's your shine factor. That's your sweet spot, if you like. So that, for me, writing is my sweet spot. So guys, the network is patchy again, but I'll just try to round